To survive, the girl had to eat moldy bread every day because she had been locked in her house by her mother for 7 days. What she didn't know was that her mother had committed suicide. One day, as usual, she crawled to the door, repeatedly feeling for her mother's shoes, her only way to tell if her mother had returned. The girl was both blind and deaf. Her only way of sensing the outside world was to touch it with her little hands. Just then, she unexpectedly felt a pair of men's leather shoes. The unfamiliar touch scared her into hiding under the table. It turned out that a few minutes earlier, her mother's creditor had come to the door. Upon learning of the woman's death, he had rushed over to take something valuable to offset the debt, but after a long search, he found nothing. He looked at the strangely behaving girl, then helplessly lit a cigarette. However, when the girl smelled the smoke, she crawled out from under the table. She patted the floor in the direction of the smell. The man was puzzled by the girl's behavior. Didn't he know that this was how the girl communicated with her mother? Watching the girl, patting the floor over and over again, he also patted the floor. The responding girl hugged the man, thinking her mother had returned. But when the girl touched the man's face, she was immediately scared and retreated. The man was also startled by the girl's reaction. He quickly grabbed the girl's hand. Just then, the sound of a door lock rattling came from outside. In a panic, he covered the girl's mouth, only to be bitten by her. Unexpectedly, the nose attracted the attention of the landlord outside. Hearing the landlord's urgent knocking, the man in the room had no choice but to open the door. But just as he was about to explain, the landlord mistook him for the girl's father and asked him to pay the rent. The man wanted to explain his purpose, but during the conversation, he learned a piece of great news. It turned out that the girl's mother had deposited $80 as a rental deposit with the landlord, and the deposit could just pay off the debt. So the man made a bold decision. He informed the landlord of the girl's mother's demise and lied that he would move out next month. Upon hearing of the woman's death, the landlord immediately demanded that the man take care of the girl this month. The man had no choice but to move into the girl's house. He was prepared to leave with his deposit as soon as the month was over, but looking at the deaf and blind girl, he felt helpless. Having promised the landlord, the kind-hearted man decided to take care of the girl. Not bearing to see the girl continue to eat moldy bread, he specially bought her some noodles. The girl was quickly attracted by the fragrant smell. She grabbed the noodles and sniffed them, swallowing saliva continuously, but in the end, she put the noodles back in the bowl, turned around and picked up the moldy bread. It was clear that the girl had never eaten anything other than bread. The unfamiliar taste made the timid girl reluctant to try. The man was stunned by this scene. For the girl's health, he had to throw away all the moldy bread. The next day, the man brought 2 portions of noodles, but this time, he made a slight change. He deliberately put the noodles in front of the girl and then hid his leather shoes, thinking that if the girl couldn't touch the shoes, she would let her guard down. Unexpectedly, this trick worked. The girl didn't touch the man's shoes and then laughed happily. She started to move towards the noodles. The man was also interested in watching the girl's every move, but after thinking for a moment, the girl once again gave up the noodles and reached for the place where the bread was placed. However, the bread had been thrown away by the man. The girl, realizing that the bread was gone, panicked. She started screaming loudly. Seeing this, the man had no choice but to hand the noodles to the girl. Unexpectedly, he was knocked over by the frightened girl. At this moment, the man was also angry.